Hello class, so our topic for this subject is ethical standards again. I know na marami na tayong na-discuss na topic about ethics, ethical standards, professional conduct. So, iba-broaden lang natin yung topic natin na to once more before tayo mag-proceed sa RA 6713 or sa police ethics. So, ethical standards are established and generally accepted moral values. So, ibig sabihin na established na siya. Okay? And generally accepted moral values. These are principles which promote values such as trust, good behavior, fairness, and kindness. These are sets of principles which may be different for each company and for each courses, for each professions. So, it depends on their needs and services. These are established by the founders of the organization to communicate the underlying moral values of that organization. The code provides a framework that will serve as a reference for decision-making process. So, these are important in an organization because they establish the parameters or yung susundan nila for behavior that owners and top executives expect from the employees, as well as the suppliers and clients. So, they also serve as guidelines for decision-making processes to help employees align their personal criteria with the company's perspective as different issues may arise within the normal business activity. So, merong mga issues na hindi maiiwasan, kaya kailangan mag-set ng guidelines para sa decision-making processes. And yun yung tinatawag natin na ethical standards. So, what are legal ethical standards? What does this mean? So, they are company policies based on laws, rules, and regulations that come from the government or other regulatory bodies. So, kaya tinatawag siyang legal ethics because of the laws, rules, and regulations. So, pwedeng manggaling siya sa government or pwede rin sa ibang regulatory bodies. Ano-ano yung example ng regulatory bodies? So, meron tayong tinatawag na Professional Regulation Commission or the PRC. So, they define more than the law for the company. They define the expectations from the employees for company leadership, and they set protocols for any violations or allegations of wrongdoing. So, ano yung gagawin nila kapag mayroong allegations? Siguro magkakandak sila ng investigation, kaya meron tayong mga HR, mga katulad sa PNP, merong IAS. Okay, so meron tayong mga iba't ibang disciplinary machineries na tinatawag. So, after this discussion, aside from your graded quiz for your attendance, I'll be giving you an assignment, and then next meeting magkakaroon tayo ng may papagawa ako sa inyong research. Okay, aside from discussion, magre-research naman kayo next meeting. Okay, so let's continue. The role of ethics in science. So this is interesting because of science. Scientific ethics call for honesty and integrity throughout the stages of scientific practice. So, yung scientific practice, meron yung stages. So, for example, ako, dun sa undergraduate ko, nagkaroon kami ng isang requirement para makagraduate is yung thesis. So, nagkandak kami ng thesis namin. Merong scientific stages yung pagkakandak ng thesis. From the formulation of the problem, ano ba yung gusto mong ma-discover, until maka-arrive ka dun sa conclusion mo. For example, yung title ng thesis ko is the title of my thesis is Phytochemical and Antimicrobial Properties of Blechum Pyramidatum Leaves. So, yung Blechum Pyramidatum is a type of leaf. Okay? So, from the start of my thesis up to the end, meron akong critic, meron akong advisor, merong mga panel na magka-criticize and magcha-check kung tama ba yung ginawa mo dun sa all throughout your thesis. So, before ka makagraduate, kailangan matapos mo yung thesis mo, hindi lang siya basta-basta. So, tingnan natin kung bakit sinabi kong hindi siya basta-basta. Isa siyang example ng scientific practice or scientific methodology and scientific process. So, the system of ethics guides the practice of science. Practice of science, for example, sa work ko, pwede natin may consider yun as practice of science, being a forensic chemist in the PNP. From the collection of data during research to the publication and beyond. So, yung undergraduate thesis namin ng college is an example of a research. So, the reliability of the scientific work and scientific knowledge of scientists depends on adhering to the scientific ethic deeply integrated in the way that they work. So, hindi lang basta-basta yung works ng undergraduate thesis na ginagawa namin. For example, you have to collect from the ano ba yung problem mo, ano ba yung gusto mong gawin, yung title ng thesis mo. So, merong mga step-by-step procedures doon. Okay. Many of the ethical principles in science relate to the production of unbiased scientific knowledge. So, unbiased means hindi siya biased ng personal ideas ng researcher. For example, ako, hindi ako magde-decide dun sa antimicrobial properties nung plant na ginamit ko based sa personal ideas ko. So, hindi ako nag-base doon. Nag-base ako sa results ng experimentation na ginawa ko. So, that is critical. The open publication of data, the review of related literature, replication, and collaboration required by the scientific ethic help to keep science in moving forward by the validation of research findings and confirming or raising questions about the results. So, yung research na ginamit ko, yung publication, open publication of data, that's an example. Kasi yung mga research namin, yung thesis namin, meron kaming kopya, meron ding kopya doon sa school. So, naiiwan doon, pwedeng magamit ng mga researchers or ng mga undergraduates na susunod sa amin para magamit nila for as reference sa mga studies din na gagawin nila. So, yung tinatawag naman na review of related literature, yung mga references na ginamit namin, for example, yung mga books relating to that kind of plant, what it means about the antimicrobial properties, ano ba yung phytochemicals, ano yung phytochemicals, ano yung procedure na gagamitin. So, that is what is called the review of related literature. So, isa-cite mo yun dun sa thesis mo as your references. Yung replication na sinasabi natin, ibig sabihin, pwedeng ulitin yung experimentation mo at kapag inulit yun, makukuha pa rin yung same results. For example, nag-examine ako ng dangerous drugs sa work ko. Kapag nireplicate or inulit yung examination, dapat yung makukuha na result, katulad din ng result na pinublish ko or binigay ko dun sa mga requesting parties. So, validation, ibig sabihin yan, marereplicate yung data mo, dedetermine nila kung valid ba yung conclusion na sinabi mo. Ayan, it's for the confirmation. At kung hindi nila ma-validate, nagkakaroon ng mga questions about dun sa results mo. So, sa scientific community, marami nang nangyayari na mga questionable na researches or experiments. So, yan yung i-research na next meeting natin. Kaya magre-research kayo, bibigyan ko kayo ng mga guidelines and instructions. Okay? So, yung breaches naman, ano ibig sabihin ng breaches? For example, breach of contract, yung mga kasiraan or pagkakamali doon sa mga ethical standards ng isa scientific community includes the fabrication of data. Ibig sabihin, nag-fabricate or nag-invento lang siya ng data, hindi siya nag-conduct ng experiments. Intentional wrong reporting of data. So, baka meron siyang underlying intentions, bakit kailangan niya wrong reporting of data. Itong mga breaches na to are dealt with by the scientific community first. And then, means similar to ethical breaches in other disciplines. So, for example, as a chemist under the Board of Chemistry sa PRC, kapag meron akong violation sa ginagawa kong pag-conduct ko ng profession ko or ng work ko, pwede akong ma-investigahan ng PRC, and then ano yung means na sinasabi dito. So the worst is matatanggalan ka ng lisensya, hindi ka na makapag-practice ng work as a licensed chemist. Sa mga doctors naman, usually ganun din kapag meron silang pagkakamali sa ginawa nila, hindi na satisfy yung pamilya ng pasyente, so pwede silang kasuhan, and then pwede silang matanggalan ng license as doctors. And sa mga lawyers naman, kapag may nagreklamo sa kanila, and then sa investigation, napatunayan na nagkamali sila talaga at merong breach dun sa ethical standards nila, pwede silang tanggalan ng pwede rin silang tanggalan ng lisensya as lawyers ng IBP or Integrated Bar of the Philippines. So sometimes, as humans, some scientists simply make mistakes. Simple lang. Yung mga hindi naman talaga sinasadyang mistakes that may appear like ethical breaches. So, kaya nagkakandak ng investigation para malaman kung intentional ba yan or it's simply a mistake. Okay? However, the scientific community works together to avoid such incidents to happen as best as they can. Kasi kapag sa scientific community maraming nagkakaroon ng mistakes, parang hindi na siya magiging kapani-paniwala. So, yung scientific ethics, it refers to a standard of conduct for scientists delineated or nahati sa dalawang broad categories. So, yung first is the standards of methods and process. It addresses the design, procedures, data analysis, interpretation, and reporting of research efforts. So, for example, sa thesis na ginawa namin, meron kaming sinunod na scientific process na tinatawag. So, from the formulation of your problem, then hypotheses, and then your objectives, your experimentations, results and findings, and your conclusion. So, aside from that, yung format ng thesis namin, meron din kaming mga sinunod na formats. For example, ang format na sinunod namin dun sa thesis namin is the APA format. So, para lang maipakita sa inyo na may format kaming sinunod. So, i-check din yun ng critic namin and ng advisors kung tama ba yung APA, yung format na ginamit namin sa research. So, dun kasali yung standards of methods and process. Next is yung standards of topics and findings. Ito naman, addresses the use of human, animal, and plant subjects in research and the ethical implications of certain research findings. So, katulad ng example na binigay ko, ang sinabi kong ginamit ko is, with the scientific name is the Bletchum pyramidatum. So, simply, ito yung tinatawag na parang plant na sapin-sapin. So, yan yung scientific name niya. Nagdala ako before using that kind of plant, nagdala ako ng plant na yan, ng sample ng plant na yan sa National Museum para ma-identify kung yun ba talaga yung tamang Bletchum pyramidatum leaves. So, meron na siyang, before mo magamit yung isang subject, kailangan ipacheck mo muna siya sa mga authorities. Yung use ng animals, for example, sa mga doctors, gumagamit sila ng mga live animals for their researches also. And humans, usually cadavers, ginagamit yan sa teaching ng mga nasa yung mga nag-aaral ng pagiging physician or ng mga doctors. Okay? So, these are the several core principles that guide the scientific research. Honesty in reporting scientific data. Kung ano hindi mo i-report, kung ano yung gusto mong maging data or result na experiments mo. So, kung ano yung result talaga, yun yung i-report mo kahit pa magkakalayo sila or kahit hindi siya yung pasok dun sa standards. For example, sa research ko, nagkaroon ako ng pagkakamali dun sa siguro sa antimicrobial part, hindi tumubo yung bacteria ko. So, hindi ko nagawa na maayos yung research. Kailangan mo i-report yun. That's why, inulit ko pa yung antimicrobial or bioassay ko na tinatawag. So, I'm just giving an example dun sa naging experience ko before. Okay? Next is the careful transcription and analysis of scientific results to avoid error. So, kailangan maging careful ka dun sa pag-analyze ng data. Katulad naman to, for example, bibigay ko sa inyo is yung sa work ko before, inaalam namin yung percent ng calcium dun sa feeds ng poultry or yung feeds ng mga manok, na alam namin kung ilan yung percent ng protein, ng calcium, potassium. Yan yung mga examples na nakikita nyo. For example, nutrition facts dun sa mga kinakain natin. Mga chichirya, mga healthy foods, kunyari, mga ganun. So, ina-examine natin yan and kailangan pasok siya sa standards. Pero kung just in case na hindi mangyari na pasok sa standards yung isang in-examine mo, you have to report it para malaman ano bang mali dun sa product. So, hindi siya pwedeng ilabas sa market. So, para din yun sa kabutihan ng mga consumers natin. Okay? Next is the independent analysis and interpretation of results based on data and not on influence of external sources. So, sa data tayo magbe-base. Yan. Hindi sa influence ng external sources. So, example dyan, yung work namin sa crime laboratory, hindi tayo pwedeng magpa-influence external sources. Kung ano yung result ng examination na ginawa natin, yun yung i-interpret natin and yun yung i-report natin. Hindi porket kailangan ganito yung maging result niyan, maging ganun yung result mo, hindi. Kung ano yung result mo, yun yung ibibigay mong result sa kanila and report, okay? So, we have the open sharing of methods, data and interpretations through publication and presentation. So, yung publication namin, dun sa physical thesis namin na tinatawag, na printed siya and sa publication ng school. And then yung presentation, present kasi namin yung thesis, yung tinatawag natin na thesis defense. So ito para sa level lang natin, pero meron mga ibang researches na pinapresent nila yung mga research nila sa mga board. Ganun. Then sufficient validation of results. Yung validations, as katulad ng sinabi ko kanina, is true replication. Pwedeng maulit yung research mo with the same results. Pero not exactly yung pinaka-exact na result. Pero as much as possible, pasok siya dun sa standard and nang ginawa before. So, ibig sabihin, mare-replicate siya. And collaboration with peers. So, yung isang scientist, hindi naman lahat nag-work alone yan. Meron tayong tinatawag na peers o yung mga co-scientists, co-researchers niya. Okay, proper crediting of sources of information, data, and ideas. Ito yung sa research, tinatawag natin na review of related literature. Related lit, okay? So, kailangan i-credit mo yung source na pinanggalingan kasi kapag hindi, makakasuhan ka ng ito, susulat ko dito. Plagiarism. So, kapag meron kang sinabi doon na hindi naman galing sa'yo, tas hindi mo kinredit, pwede kang makasuhan ng plagiarism. Okay? So, moral obligations to society in general and in some disciplines, responsibility in weighing the rights of human and animal subjects. So, meron pa ring rights yung human and animal subjects. So, katulad nung, actually nanonood kasi ako ng Grey's Anatomy. So, yung human na ginagamit, human subjects na ginagamit, dapat pumapayag sila. Meron silang waiver na payag sila na gamitin sila na subjects sa isang research na gagawin. Okay, yung animals, kahit na hindi sila nakapagsalita, hindi sila nakapag-decide on their own, meron naman kasing nagpo-protect ng animal rights.